Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's indeed a pleasure to stand and speak in support of the Prime Minister's statement. And what a difference a year makes. This time last year, the richest countries in the world were virtually in meltdown. Banks were being bailed out and the government were giving out handouts and rescue packages for businesses that made the very eyes of the most financially literate water. 12 months on, we've just see that the situation was the worst in 70 years. The situation has grown to a stage where we see a lot of the developed world very much still in the grips of a recession. However, the government held its nerve, it managed its resources and achieved an outstanding result. And through the whole experience, one can only describe the performance of the government as excellent. And in actual fact, it would be fair to say that even the opposition would concede that. 12 months on, we are out of recession, and again, the government last week has delivered the next important steps for success on the road to prosperity. The Prime Minister's statement demonstrates this government will back the individual, Mr. Speaker, to know how best to manage their resources, to know best how to educate their children, and to know best how to invest their savings. The wonderful thing about New Zealanders is that they are beginning to trust and have confidence in themselves again. And this Prime Minister's statement has gone a long way to reinforce that further. New Zealanders need to be taught again to believe in themselves along the lines like that they can keep up with Australia, that we are a nation of achievers and that we are winners. Providing we work together, we will enjoy the fruits of success. So, Mr. Speaker, I wish to concentrate just on 3 points within the Prime Minister's statement. There are many, many points covered here. The time does not allow me to go over them and canvass them all. So I'm going to concentrate on science and innovation, unlocking this nation's resources and potential, and a growth-enhancing tax system. The Prime Minister's statement has articulated the most efficient and effective manner of funding science and innovation, and it is ready and able to fund good, top-quality science. The Prime Minister's statement addresses the challenges of getting more of our firms using science, using research and technology to deliver more valuable products and services. This will make New Zealand companies more successful and more competitive in our export markets, which will in turn create new jobs, better paid jobs for all New Zealanders. This government is determined to develop a public science system able to support such a dynamic economy. This year, the Primary Growth Partnership will contribute $40 million and up to $70 million in future years, matched dollar for dollar by industry, and this no doubt will, in my mind, be the most appropriate model to follow. This model will produce quality science and research that no other country can actually aspire to. It will deliver value for money, but will also deliver the groundbreaking scientific discovery that such an inspirational government attains to, Mr. Speaker. New Zealanders can have the confidence in this government's agenda, and I refer to what has become known as the most progressive alliance to occur in modern scientific times within the context of climate change. And that, of course, is the Global Research Alliance, now involving 23 nations who will be meeting in New Zealand later on this year. And we can have high expectations of a very successful meeting, Mr. Speaker, when those nations come to New Zealand during 2010. Sadly, the only dissenting voice in this whole debate around the Global Alliance, the Global Research Alliance, has been Labour's Charles Chauvel. This only further demonstrates how this government is able to gain international traction and buy-in from other countries, leading to scientific success. And why the opposition are so last century and out of touch with global thinking. If there's one thing the opposition fails to grasp, and that is, Mr. Speaker, if you want first-class health, if you want first-class education, and first-class law and order, you must have a first-class economy. The Prime Minister's statement took us through a number of things that are very, very positive and constructive. It told us that presently there are 10 separate work streams that are underway, covering economic growth areas like infrastructure, urban design, critical work on improving New Zealand's fresh water management. The Prime Minister's statement outlined how the government will progress an action plan to further unlock New Zealand's petroleum potential. These estimates are that the petroleum sector will generate many billions of dollars in the near future, and with it many, many jobs. There's also the extraordinary economic potential in the mineral estate residing in the Crown-owned land. The Prime Minister's statement also recommended that areas within the Crown land from Schedule 4 plus additional land that's not yet in Schedule 4 be added for the purposes of harvesting some of the minerals within those areas. Within the speech, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister talked about the government action to remove particular regulatory roadblocks and progress water storage in Canterbury. So I'd just like to take a bit of an opportunity and focus on that for a moment, because it is one part of the debate that I feel has been overlooked somewhat. When this is achieved, it will contribute enormously to the New Zealand economy. Mr. Speaker, this project, which is large in anyone's terms, is compared to the equivalent of having a Rugby World Cup in New Zealand every year. Such is the contribution and potential of this project to the New Zealand economy. Mr. Speaker, this major project, regional development, will create thousands of jobs and contribute many hundreds of millions of dollars to the New Zealand economy annually. Entire communities in the East Coast dry parts of the South Island are heartened that after many, many years we have a government that is prepared to take action, and not one that will engage in endless meetings and talking. They are finally saying, that is, these communities are finally saying, we have a government that will take action, and by placing the environment at the forefront of all considerations, work towards prioritising a win-win situation for all stakeholders to the future prosperity of all New Zealand. We'll now move on to the issue of a growth-enhancing tax system. This government is not prepared to stand by and allow New Zealanders to miss out on a prosperous future by continuing to rely on a tax system that possesses inconsistencies and perverse consequences. We have a tax system that taxes labour hard and investments hard at a high rate, and yet we tax consumption at a very low rate. It is of no surprise then that we need to adjust this taxation system to ensure that we get better incentives going forward. The government has a number of targets to objectives to attain with these tax reforms. Clearly this country of ours needs a tax system that creates incentives for people to work hard, improve their skills and to get ahead. And most importantly, something that is always overlooked by the opposition, that people learn to do that on their own steam. We need a tax system that encourages saving and one that boosts productivity. I have referred here, Mr. Speaker, to only 3 of many points brought out in the Prime Minister's statement, and I can assure the opposition on the other side that 2010 is going to be a year to remember for all the very right reasons. So in conclusion, it is with immense pride that I speak in support of the Prime Minister's statement. It is appropriate, it is a step change, and it is the first step towards a brighter future for all New Zealanders.